talking about standalone, then you would most definitely need a full assignment brief. But whether you're standalone or whether it's part of an apprenticeship, the other important thing about an assignment brief is before it goes out to any learner, it's IQA'd. Okay, so that is a massive difference to the MVQ. So what we're saying is that the assignment brief, before it goes out, it needs to go through the internal quality assurance process. The reason being is then it's ensuring that you're not setting the learner up to do something which is not going to meet the requirements of the qualification. As a centre, in your assignment brief, do you have clear deadlines for assessment? Okay. If it's the EV coming in, how does the learner know when the assessment's going to take place? Where is it going to take place and when? Okay. Second one is have relevant assessment criteria against each task and are set in a relevant context. Now that, hopefully we would tick yes, yes, yes. If you're using the assessment workbook, that's what the assessment workbook does. Okay. It's when you come away from the assessment workbook and you start to put your own activities in place that you need to ensure that any additional activity within the assignment brief is meeting that checklist. Then we've got assessor feedback. So what I was saying just a moment ago, is there constructive feedback on the assessment? Is it linked to a relevant assessment criteria? Have you identified opportunities for improving performance, which is what we talked about just now, and have agreed actions been mentioned within the feedback? Okay, and then the final page talks about internal verification, and again it asks questions. Okay, what I have done is I've lifted this from the SV report form. So that is exactly what the form asks the SV to report on. Okay, so now you've got that report form in the form of a checklist. So what you can do is go back to your centre, look at what you do already. Do you need to put an assignment brief in place? And the centres I'm working with, what I recommend they do is to put just one page together so that they can clearly show how the learner is going to meet the assessment criteria and the learning outcomes for the technical certificate. Okay, and then they can issue that to the learner, and the feedback I'm getting from the centres is that, do you know, for the first time we actually all now know what we're doing and who's doing what. It's really important that when you're working on the BTEC, if it's a portfolio-based BTEC, that you're using, I would say, the same recording mechanisms to demonstrate how the assessment criteria have been met through the learning, the knowledge, the evidence that the learner has given, and it still could be written, it could be verbal questioning, it doesn't have to be written, but what's important is that we don't just tick it off, we also then have to put some feedback to say why that has been ticked off, with opportunities for development. So that is, it's the feedback that is so different with the BTEC and the assignment brief. Everything else very similar.